My name is Matthew. I manage construction jobs. I used to sign checks and solve problems. Tonight, I'm sitting on a curb outside a casino with no keys, no money, and no way to explain where $6,000 went. That was my rent. 3 months I owed my landlord who'd been patient through my mom's hospital bills. I walked in telling myself I'd double 2,000 and walk out ahead. I believed in patterns. I believed I was due. The machine felt warm, then cold, then like a trapdoor. Hours disappeared. My last 1,000 went on one hand of cards. A dealer I thought was my friend asked if I was sure. I said yes. Now my phone's dead, my truck's locked, and Friday my landlord expects money I don't have. It didn't start as gambling. It started as solving a problem. Let me take you back to the parking lot where I drove past my exit and kept going. When you convince yourself you're due for a miracle, what do you lose first? The money or the ability to see what's true? I sat in my truck outside the office with the engine off and $6,000 in cash on the passenger seat. The money was inside a white envelope, the kind banks give you when you ask for large bills. I could see the edge of it from the corner of my eye. 3 months' rent. Karen's patience in paperform.my phone was open to an article about Oklahoma eviction law. I'd read it twice already. The headline said tenants had 10 days to respond after receiving notice. I was trying to figure out if that meant 10 business days or 10 calendar days. My brain felt like static.it was 5:47 on a Tuesday. Rush hour traffic moved past me on the street. I should have been heading home. I should have been putting that envelope in my glove box and locking the truck and going inside to make dinner. Instead, I sat there doing math in my head. 6,000 minus 2,000 equals 4,000. 4,000 was still enough for Karen. She'd be annoyed I was short, but she'd take it. She always took it. And if I could turn that 2,000 into 4, I'd have 8 total. Enough to pay her in full and still have money left over for the medical bills that were crushing my credit score. The logic felt airtight that I'm a project manager. I solve problems for a living. I look at budgets and timelines and I find solutions. This was just another problem. I wasn't gambling. I was investing. I was being strategic. 2 weeks earlier, I'd been at Riverwind Casino, standing behind a guy at the Buffalo Gold machine, when he hit for $12,000. He didn't even react. Just collected his ticket, folded it into his wallet, and walked out like he'd stopped for gas. I remembered thinking, that's how it works when you're due. The machine doesn't care about your story. It just pays that I'd lost $2,300 in August, $4,100 in September. The numbers sat in my chest like weights. But that's exactly why October had to be different. The universe doesn't let you stay in the red forever. At some point, the pendulum swings back. That's what I told myself. That I put the truck in gear. My hands were steady. I took 71st Street instead of the highway because the highway felt too committed, like I was making a decision I couldn't undo. But 71st took me to the same place. It just took longer. The casino sat off the interstate like a glowing ship. I could see it from a mile away. I'd been going there for 8 months, long enough that the security guy at the door knew my face. Short enough that I still believed I was different from the people who showed up at dawn wearing yesterday's clothes. That I parked under a sodium light at the far edge of the lot. The air smelled like asphalt and fried food from the restaurant next door. I locked the truck and put my keys in my jacket pocket. I could feel the envelope against my ribs. Before I went inside, I made a deal with myself. 2,000. That's all I'd take in. I'd play conservative. I'd leave as soon as I doubled it. 2 hours, maybe 3. I'd be home by 9. I checked my phone one last time. No messages from Karen. No calls from my sister Emily. No emergencies. Just me and a white envelope and a parking lot full of cars that all looked like mine. I walked toward the entrance. The doors slid open. Cold air rolled over me. Slot machine sounds poured out into the night. Bells and chimes and digital whoops. The noise of possibility. I told myself I was solving a problem. I told myself I'd be back out in 2 hours. I told myself I was due. The main casino floor was loud and bright and full of people who looked tired. Retirees sat at penny slots with buckets of coins. A group of guys my age crowded around a craps table, shouting. The sports book had every screen going. Baseball, football, odds scrolling like stock tickers. I walked past all of it. I wasn't here for the cheap seats. The high-limit room sat in the back corner behind a low wall of frosted glass. The carpet was darker in there, burgundy instead of blue. The ceiling lights were recessed and warm. Only 3 machines were occupied. It felt private, serious, like the place where real players came. I I'd had two good hits in this room back in July. One for 1800, one for 22. Both times on the Dragon Link machines against the back wall. I remembered the sound they made when the bonus triggered, a rising chime. Then gold coins filling the screen one by one. I remembered the weight of the ticket in my hand when I cashed out. That memory lived in my body. I could taste the Red Bull I'd been drinking that night. 3 Dragon Link machines sat in a row. I took the middle one. The chair was padded and tall, like a throne. I pulled $400 bills out of the envelope and fed them into the slot. The machine beeped and showed my balance. $400.00. A cocktail waitress appeared at my elbow. Her name was Denise. She knew my drink. Red Bull. I nodded. She didn't write it down. She just walked away toward the bar. I set my bet at $8.80 per spin. Not max bet. That would have been reckless, but high enough to trigger the features. High enough to matter. I hit the button. The reel spun. Dragons and gold coins blurred past. 3 orbs landed in a row and the screen flashed. Hold and spin triggered. My chest tightened. This was it. The feature I'd been chasing for weeks. 6 spins. 12 spins. I collected 4 mini jackpots. The counter climbed to $240. Then the spins ran out and the feature ended. I was up $40. I kept playing. For 20 minutes the machine teased me. Small wins, just enough to keep my balance hovering near 400. A pair of wilds paid 60. A scatter bonus paid 90. I told myself this was good. The machine was warming up. It was remembering me. Denise brought my Red Bull. I drank half of it in one pull. My hands were cold. AT spin 73. My balance dropped below $50. I stared at the screen. $36.40. I thought about stopping. I thought about walking out with $360 in losses and calling it a lesson. But that logic didn't make sense. I was already in. The only way forward was to reload. To give the machine a chance to pay me back. I pulled another $500 out of the envelope. The machine beeped. My balance jumped to $536.40. I raised my bet to $12 per spin. The reel spun faster now. Numbers dropped and climbed and dropped again. I hit another hold and spin feature and collected $80. Then nothing. Then another mini bonus for 60. The math was working. I just needed one more big hit. $1 grand jackpot. That's what the woman 2 weeks ago had done. She'd sat down, played 20 minutes, hit the grand, and walked out. I could do that. I kept my finger on the button. Spin after spin after spin. The sound became a rhythm. Beep. Whir. Ding. Silence. Beep. Whir. Ding. Silence. My balance climbed to 600, then fell to 450, then 380, then 2-10. At some point, I finished the Red Bull. I didn't remember drinking it. At some point, a man sat down at the machine next to me and lost $200 in 10 minutes and left. At some point, the cocktail waitress asked if I needed anything, and I said no. My balance hit $36 for the second time. I looked at the clock on the wall. 8:10 p.m. I reached for my wallet. I'd gone through $2,300, and I couldn't remember half of it. The machine had eaten my money in chunks. 200 here, 300 there. And every time my balance dropped, I told myself the same thing. One more reload. Just one more. The math had to turn. That's how casinos get you. Not with one big loss. With 100 small decisions that all feel reversible. I fed another 300 into the machine. My balance jumped to $318. I lowered my bet back to $8.80. I needed to stretch it. I needed time for the feature to hit. The woman 2 machines over started screaming. Not a scared scream. A winning scream. Her machine lit up like a firework. Red and gold lights pulsed across the screen. A siren sound filled the room. Loud. Piercing. The kind of noise that makes everyone stop and look. The words "Grand Jackpot" flashed in block letters. A floor attendant appeared within seconds. Then a security guard. Then a man in a suit with a clipboard. They circled her machine like she'd done something illegal. The woman sat perfectly still, her hand over her mouth. The screen said $10 for 100. I watched the whole thing. The attendant checking her ID. The security guard standing behind her while the suit guy made a call. The woman's face, calm, like she'd expected it. Like she'd known it was coming. That's when it clicked for me. She hadn't gotten lucky. She'd just stayed long enough. She'd outlasted the cold streak. That's the difference between people who walk out broke and people who walk out with 10 grand. Patience. Commitment. I was already in for 2,300. If I stopped now, that money was just gone. Wasted. But if I kept going, if I gave the machine a real chance, I could hit what she hit. I could walk out ahead that it wasn't hope. It was math that I pulled out another 500 that the machine beeped. My balance climbed to $818. I raised my bet back to $12 per spin. I needed to play at her level. I needed to prove I was serious, the real spun. I hit a scatter bonus that paid $140. My balance jumped to $950. I felt my shoulders relax. This was it. The turn. I raised my bet to $15.10 spins later. I was back at $6.80.20 spins later, $4.10. I reloaded. Another 300. Then 200. Then another 500. I stopped pulling money out of the envelope and just kept my wallet open on my lap. Bills went into the machine and numbers went up and down on the screen, and I stopped calculating. I stopped thinking about Karen or Friday's deadline or the fact that I'd been sitting in this chair for 2.5 hours without moving. All I thought about was the next spin. At one point my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text from Emily. You good? Haven't heard from you today. I typed back. Yeah, all good, just busy. I put the phone face down on the machine and kept playing. The high-limit room got quieter. The couple at the farm machine cashed out and left. A new guy sat down at the Buffalo Gold and lost 305 minutes and left. Denise brought me another Red Bull without asking. I drank it and didn't taste it. My balance dropped to $60. I fed in another 200. Then 300. The envelope was getting thin. I didn't look inside. I didn't want to know. 9 p.m. I hit another hold and spin feature. 15 spins. 20. I collected 6 mini jackpots. The counter hit $420 and my heart was pounding and I thought, this is it. This is the one. The spins ran out. The feature ended. I'd won $420 on a $12 bet. A good hit. A reason to stay. I raised my bet to $18 per spin. The machine ate it in 4 minutes. I reloaded. 18:20. I stood up to go to the bathroom. My legs didn't work right. I had to hold the edge of the machine to get my balance. My lower back ached. My mouth tasted like metal and artificial citrus. I walked across the casino floor toward the men's room. The noise felt far away, like I was underwater. I pushed through the door and the fluorescent lights made my eyes sting. I looked at myself in the mirror and my face was gray. My eyes were bloodshot. I looked like I'd been awake for 2 days. I ran cold water and splashed it on my cheeks and the back of my neck. For 30 seconds I had clarity that I could walk out right now. I still had $1,500 left. I could go to Karen tomorrow, admit I gambled half the rent, and beg for more time. She'd be angry, but she wouldn't kick me out. Not yet. I could survive this. But then I thought about the woman's face when she hit the grand. That calm, that certainty. I thought about the $2,300 I'd already lost, and I thought, if I stop now, I'm just a guy who wasted $2,300. But if I keep going, I could still fix this. The bathroom door swung open. An older man walked in, saw me gripping the sink, and looked away fast. He went into a stall without saying anything. I dried my hands. I walked back out onto the floor. I stood at the sink gripping the porcelain edge. Cold water dripped from my chin. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. That institutional hum, that sounds like a headache. My reflection looked wrong. Skin too pale. Eyes red around the edges. Jaw clenched so tight my molars ached. I'd been sitting for 3 hours without standing. Without eating. Without thinking about anything except the next spin. The clarity hit me like cold air. I still had $1,500 in that envelope. I could walk out, drive home, show up at Karen's office tomorrow morning and tell her the truth. I gambled half the rent. I'm sorry. Give me 2 more weeks. She'd be angry. She'd probably start the eviction process. But I wouldn't be standing here at 9:20 on a Tuesday night with a face I didn't recognize. That was the smart choice. The grown-up choice. But then I thought about the woman's grand jackpot. $10,400. I thought about how calm she'd looked, like she'd been expecting it, like the machine had owed her. And I thought about the $2,300 I'd already lost tonight, that if I walked out now, that money was just gone. Wasted. Thrown away. But if I stayed, if I gave it one more real push, I could hit what she hit. I could turn $1,500 into $8,000. I could walk into Karen's office on Thursday and pay her in full and still have money left over. The math made sense. The sunk cost was already sunk. The only way to recover it was forward. That I wasn't being stupid. I was being strategic. The bathroom door swung open and a man in a Harley-Davidson t-shirt walked in. He glanced at me, saw my wet face and white knuckles, and looked away fast. He went into the stall without a word that I dried my hands on a paper towel, threw it in the trash, checked my phone. Still no messages. Emily's text sat there unanswered. You good? I put the phone back in my pocket. I walked out of the bathroom and across the casino floor, past the penny slots, past the sports book. But I didn't go back to the Dragon Link machines. I couldn't. That machine had taken enough from me. I needed something different. Something I could control. I walked toward the table games. 3-card poker. That was strategy. That was skill. You could see the dealer's hand. You could make decisions. It wasn't just pressing a button and hoping. I saw Jackson's table near the bar, and I headed straight for it. Jackson stood behind the 3-card poker table in a white dealer shirt and black vest. He was a lean black man, maybe mid-50s, with gray at his temples and hands that moved like he'd been dealing cards since before I was born. I played at his table maybe a dozen times over the past 8 months. He always remembered me, always asked about work, always made small talk about the thunder or the weather. I thought we were friends. I sat down in the middle seat. The felt was forest green and soft under my palms. 2 other players sat at the far end, a couple in matching OU sweatshirts who looked like they'd been drinking. They weren't paying attention to me. Jackson looked up. Our eyes met. Something shifted in his face. Not judgment exactly, just a kind of recognition. Like he'd seen this before. Long night? He asked. His voice was calm, almost kind. I'm good, I said, about to turn it around. I pulled the envelope out of my jacket and counted out $500 in 20s and 50s. My hands didn't shake. I laid the bills on the felt in a neat stack. Jackson picked them up, fanned them out, counted them silently. He slid 5 black chips across the table, each one worth 100. Good luck, he said, but his face didn't match his words. His eyes had gone distant, like he'd stepped out of the room while his body kept dealing. He burned a card and dealt. 3 cards face down in front of me, 3 in front of himself. I put a $100 chip in the ante circle. I lifted the edge of my cards. Queen of hearts, 10 of spades, 4 of clubs, queen high, garbage hand. Jackson flipped his cards. Ace of diamonds, jack of clubs, 9 of hearts. He swept my chip away. I bet another 100 on the next hand. Got a pair of 6s. Jackson had a pair of 9s. Gone. The couple at the end of the table cashed out. Now it was just me and Jackson. He dealt again. I put 200 in the circle this time. Chasing. Trying to make up ground fast. I got King Jack 7. Decent. I stayed in. Jackson flipped an ace king queen. Straight. My 200. Disappeared. I had $200 in chips left. For hands. Maybe 5 if I bet small. You working tomorrow? Jackson asked while he shuffled. Yeah, I said. Site visit in Owasso. He nodded. Dealt the cards. I didn't look at them right away. I just stared at the backs. Red bicycles on white paper. Somewhere in those 3 cards was either my rent money or my eviction notice. I flipped them over. Pair of queens. My chest jumped. Queens were strong. Queens could win. I pushed my last 200 into the circle. Jackson dealt his own cards slowly. He always dealt slowly. It was part of his rhythm. Professional. Controlled. He flipped them one at a time. King of spades. 10 of hearts. 6 of hearts. 4 of hearts. 3 of hearts. A flush. King high flush beats a pair of queens. Jackson's hand swept across the felt and collected my chips. I sat there. My mouth was dry. My brain was trying to catch up to what just happened. $500. 12 minutes. Gone. I didn't move. I just sat there staring at the empty felt in front of me. The couple's drink glasses were still on the rail. Ice melting. Condensation pooling on the wood. Jackson stacked his chips. Organized the discard pile. Waited. You want to keep going? He asked. His voice was neutral. No push. No judgment. I should have said no. I should have stood up and walked out and driven home and figured out how to explain 1,500 in losses to Karen. But my hand was already reaching for my wallet. I pulled out the last of the cash. $100 bills. Counted them on the felt. The paper felt thin. Fragile. Jackson looked at the money. Then he looked at me. Really looked at me. You sure about this? He asked. It wasn't a dealer question. It was a human question. I heard what he wasn't saying. He was asking if I was okay. If I knew what I was doing. If I wanted him to call someone. But I didn't want to be saved. I wanted to win. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Jackson picked up the bills. Counted them in silence. slid 10 black chips across the felt. He didn't say good luck this time, he just dealt that I didn't bet small. I didn't hedge. I pushed all 10 chips into the ante circle. $1,000 on a single hand. The couple at the other end of the casino laughed about something. A slot machine played its victory song. Someone dropped a glass, and it shattered on tile. I lifted my cards. Jack of clubs. 9 of diamonds. 7 of spades. Jack high. Nothing. I stared at the cards like they might change if I looked hard enough. Jackson waited. He had to wait. That was the rule. The player decides whether to fold or stay. I stayed. I pushed the cards forward. I had no choice. I was all in. Jackson flipped his hand. Ace. Queen. 8 to ace. High beats. Jack high. It was over in 15 seconds. Jackson's hand moved across the felt, and the chips disappeared into his rack. I stood up. My legs felt like someone else's legs. The room tilted slightly to the left. You need me to call you a ride? Jackson asked. I shook my head. I walked away from the table, through the casino floor, past the machines I'd started on, past Denise carrying a tray of drinks, past the cage where people were cashing tickets. I pushed through the front doors into the October AIR.my. Phone was dead. I'd been inside for 5.5 hours. I reached into my jacket pocket for my truck keys. They weren't there. I checked my jacket again. Both pockets. Then my jeans. Front pockets. Back pockets. I pulled out my wallet, my dead phone, a receipt from the gas station, a stick of GUM.NO keys. I walked back inside. The noise hit me again. Slot machines. Laughter. The overhead music that never stops. I retraced my path. Back to Jackson's table. He was dealing to a new player now, a woman in a Cowboys jersey. I crouched down and looked under the table. Checked the floor around the chairs. Nothing. I walked to the Dragon Link machines. The middle one where I'd sat for 3 hours. A different person was playing it now, an older woman with a visor and a cigarette. I bent down and checked under her machine. Under the chair. She looked at me like I was crazy. Lose something? She asked. Keys, I said. She shrugged. Kept playing. I checked the bathroom. Looked in the stall I'd used. Checked the counter by the sinks. Asked the janitor who was mopping if he'd seen anything. He shook his head. Didn't stop mopping. I went to the lost and found counter near the cage. A woman sat behind the glass doing a crossword puzzle. Excuse me, I said. Did anyone turn in car keys? She looked up. What kind? Ford. Black key fob. She checked a bin behind her. Shuffled through some papers. Nothing yet. We close at 11. You can call back tomorrow. Lost and found opens at 2. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. 14 hours from now. My phone was at 2% battery. I stood in the middle of the casino and did the math. I had no money. No keys. No way to get into my truck. No way to get home. I opened my Uber app. Checked my bank account balance. $18.62. I requested a ride. Watched the little car icon circle on the map looking for a driver. It took 4 minutes. The app said the ride would cost $14. I walked back outside and waited on the curb. The air smelled like cigarette smoke and fryer grease from the restaurant next door. Cars pulled in and out of the lot. People walked past me laughing, carrying plastic cups of soda and coffee. A security guard stood by the front door talking into his radio. Nobody looked at me. I sat down on the curb. Put my head in my hands. The full weight of it landed $6,000. Gone. Rent money. 3 months of Karen's patience. The 401k loan I'd taken out and promised myself I'd pay back. All of it fed into machines and cards and the absolute certainty that I was due. I had no keys. No money. No way into my apartment. No explanation that wouldn't sound insane. A gray Nissan pulled up. Uber sticker in the window. The driver rolled down the passenger window. Matthew. I stood up. Got in the back seat. Rough night? He asked. There was a rosary hanging from his rearview mirror. The car smelled like vanilla air freshener. Yeah. I said. He didn't ask anything else. Just put the car in drive and pulled out of the lot. I watched the casino shrink in the side mirror until we turned onto the highway and it disappeared. I climbed through my bathroom window at 12:40 a.m. I'd left it unlocked weeks ago when I lost my keys the first time, a habit I'd developed and forgotten about. The window was small and high, and I had to pull myself up using the sink. My ribs scraped the frame. I landed hard on the tile floor. I lay there for a minute, staring at the ceiling. The bathroom light was off, but the streetlight outside cast everything in orange. I pulled myself up, walked into my bedroom, Sat on the edge of the bed fully clothed. My phone was charging on the nightstand. The screen said 1:10 a.m. I should have been relieved. I was home. I was safe. But all I felt was empty. At 1:15 my phone buzzed. Emily's name lit up the screen. She did this sometimes. Called late when she couldn't sleep. She'd been doing it more since Mom's stroke. Checking in. Making sure I was okay. I almost didn't answer. If I ignored her, she'd worry. She might drive over. I answered. Hey, I said. My voice sounded like gravel. Did I wake you? She asked. No. I'm up. Can't sleep either, she said. I've been thinking about Mom. The nursing home called today about her bill. They want the balance by January. I closed my eyes. Another bill. Another number I couldn't pay. How much? I asked. $4,100 after insurance. I've got $2,000 saved. I was hoping you could cover the rest. My stomach dropped. Yeah, I said. I'll figure it out. Silence on the line. I could hear her breathing. Did you pay Karen yet? She asked. The question landed like a fist. Not yet, I said. I'm handling it. More silence. You went to the casino again, didn't you? Her voice wasn't angry. Just tired. Like she already knew. No, I said. I've just been busy with work. I'll pay her tomorrow. Matthew, I'm fine, Em. Really, I've got it under control. She didn't push. She never pushed. She just sighed. I love you, she said. Please be careful. I will. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, staring at the screen until it went dark. I opened my banking app. Checked the balance. $14.62. Rent was due in 2 days. The nursing home bill in 3 months. My credit cards were maxed. My 401k was tapped. I lay back on the bed. Still in my jacket. Still in my shoes. I didn't sleep. I woke up to my phone vibrating on the nightstand. Sunlight poured through the blinds. My head felt like it was wrapped in cotton. I grabbed the phone. 7 missed calls. All from Dennis. I checked the time. 11:03 a.m. I was supposed to be in Owasso at 9 for a concrete pour. The crew was waiting. The inspector was on site. I was the project manager. I was supposed to be there. I called Dennis back. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? His voice was tight. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sick. Food poisoning. I've been up all night. Silence. Matthew, this is the 3rd time in 2 months. I know. I'm sorry. I'll be in tomorrow. I promise. We need to talk when you're back, he said. This isn't working. I understand. He hung up. I lay there staring at the ceiling. My mouth tasted like metal and Red Bull. My body ached like I'd been hit by a truck. I thought about calling in completely. Quitting. Just disappearing. But I needed the job. I needed the paycheck. I needed something to hold on to. I dragged myself out of bed at noon. Took a shower. Stood under the hot water until it ran cold. I needed my truck keys. I couldn't go another day without them. I got dressed and called the Ford dealership. Explained I was locked out of my truck and needed my spare key programmed. The service guy said it would cost $85 and take 2 days. That $85 I didn't have. Can you do it faster? I asked. Friday's the earliest. Friday. The same day Karen expected her rent. I hung up. Borrowed Emily's old Civic from my apartment lot. She'd lent it to me months ago, and I'd never given it back, and drove to the dealership. I paid with my credit card. The one that was already maxed. It went through. Barely. We'll call you Friday. The service rep said. I drove back home and sat in the parking lot staring at my apartment building. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't pay Karen. I couldn't fix any of this. At 2 p.m. I called the casino lost and found. A woman answered on the 3rd ring. She sounded bored. Riverwind lost and found. Hi, I said. I lost my keys last night. Black Ford key fob. I heard papers shuffling. Yeah, we've got them. Someone turned them in around 11. You can pick them up anytime with ID. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I drove back to the casino in Emily's Civic. The parking lot looked different in daylight. Smaller. Sadder. Half the spaces were empty. The people walking in and out didn't look like they were having fun. They looked like they'd been there since dawn. I parked and walked inside. The daylight casino was a different place. Quieter. The machine still beeped and chimed, but the sound felt hollow. An old man in a stained jacket sat at a penny slot feeding in dollar bills one at a time. A woman my age stood at the ATM staring at the screen like it might change its mind. I walked to the lost and found counter. The same woman from last night sat behind the glass. Different crossword puzzle. I called about the Ford keys. I said, She pulled a plastic bin from under the counter, dug through it, handed me my keys without looking at my ID. Thanks, I said. She went back to her crossword. I walked back through the casino, past the slots, past the bar, past the high-limit room. I saw Jackson's 3-card poker table. It was empty. I stopped walking. I stood there holding my keys. I had $14 in my bank account. I had max credit cards. I had no rent money, no plan, but I had $14 that I could sit down, bet 5, maybe turn it into 50, then 100. Then, I forced myself to keep walking, out the doors, across the parking lot, into Emily's car. I sat behind the wheel shaking. I'd almost done it again. I drove home, parked, walked up to my apartment. There was a notice taped to my door, white paper. Official seal. Notice to vacate. I pulled it down. Read it twice. Karen had filed eviction paperwork that morning. I had until the end of October to pay or leave. 19 days. Karen's office sat on the second floor of a brick building on Cherry Street. Small, 2 rooms, file cabinets along one wall, and a desk covered in paperwork. She managed 4 rental properties, all of them older duplexes and fourplexes around Tulsa. She wasn't rich. She was just trying to make it like everyone else. I knocked on the open door at 10 a.m. She looked up from her computer. "Come in, Matthew." Her voice wasn't angry, just tired. I sat in the chair across from her desk. The eviction paperwork sat in a manila folder between us. She didn't open it. "I had the money," I said. "I had all of it. 6,000. I was going to bring it to you today." She folded her hands on the desk. "What happened to it?" I opened my mouth. The lie was right there. I could say my mom's nursing home took it. I could say my truck broke down. I could say anything except the truth, but I was so tired of lying. "I lost my keys," I said. "And I made some bad choices." Karen studied my face. She was 62. She'd been a middle school teacher for 30 years before she retired. She knew when someone was telling the truth and when they were trying to sell her something. "You gambled it," she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. She leaned back in her chair, looked at the ceiling, sighed. "Matthew, I like you. I really do. When your mom got sick, I gave you space. I let you skip August. I took half in September. But I can't keep doing this. I have a mortgage on that building. I have property taxes due in November." "I know," I said. "I just need 1 more week. I get paid Friday. I can give you 2,000 then, and the rest by the end of the month." She shook her head slowly. "I don't think you had the money," she said. "And I don't think 1 more week will change that." She slid a pamphlet across the desk. Financial Counseling Resources. Gamblers Anonymous. The hotline number was printed in bold at the bottom. She didn't say anything. Just let the pamphlet sit there between us. My face burned. "I've already filed the paperwork," she said. "You have until October 31st. That's 19 days. If you can pay the full $4,500 by then, we'll stop the process. If not, you need to be out." "Karen, I'm sorry, Matthew. I really am." She opened the folder and pulled out a copy of the eviction notice. Slid it across to me. I took it, folded it in half, stood up. "For what it's worth," she said, "I hope you get help." I walked out of her office, down the stairs, into the parking lot. I sat in Emily's car and stared at the pamphlet. The hotline number stared back. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over Emily's contact. I couldn't ask her for money. She'd already covered me too many times. She had her own bills, her own life. I called her anyway. "Hey," she said. "How'd it go with Karen?" "Not great," I said. "She filed eviction. I have until the end of the month." Silence. "Can I stay with you for a while?" I asked. More silence. "Of course," she said. "We'll figure it out." Her voice cracked just a little on the last word. I knew what that meant. She was disappointed, scared for me, probably wondering how she was going to explain this to Kevin. "Thank you," I said. "Come by tonight," she said. "I'll make up the basement." I hung up. I looked at the pamphlet again. I didn't call the number. Not yet. Emily's house in Broken Arrow had an unfinished basement. Concrete floors, exposed beams, one small window near the ceiling that let in a square of daylight. She'd set up a futon in the corner next to a space heater. Boxes were stacked along the walls, stuff from Mom's apartment at the nursing home. Photo albums, kitchen dishes, a lamp shaped like a rooster. I moved in Friday night with 2 duffel bags and a garbage bag full of clothes. Emily met me at the door, hugged me without saying anything. Kevin stood in the kitchen behind her. He waved, smiled, but his eyes said something else. "We set up the futon," Emily said. There's blankets in the hall closet. Bathrooms upstairs. Thanks, I said. She showed me down the stairs. Flipped on the overhead light. The bulb was bare and bright and made everything look worse than it was. It's not much, she said. It's perfect. She looked at me for a long moment, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. We'll figure this out, she said. I nodded. She went back upstairs and I sat on the futon. It smelled like dust and old fabric softener. I pulled out my phone. My bank account still said $14. My credit cards were maxed. My next paycheck was a week away, and it would barely cover gas and food. I opened DraftKings. The Thunder were playing the Lakers on Saturday night. I could bet $5. If I picked the spread right, I could turn it into 20. Then 50. Then, I heard footsteps upstairs. Emily and Kevin talking in low voices. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew the tone. Kevin was asking how long I'd be staying. Emily was defending me. I closed the app Saturday. I stayed in the basement. Scrolled through my phone. Applied for payday loans that all got denied. Stared at the ceiling. Sunday morning, Emily knocked on the door. You want to come to church with me? She asked. I said no. She left a piece of paper on the bottom step. Folded in half. After she left, I walked over and picked it up. Gamblers Anonymous. Faith Lutheran Church, Sheridan Road. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:00 p.m. I put it in my pocket. That night, I lay on the futon and opened my phone again. The DraftKings app glowed in the dark. The Thunder had won. I called the spread right in my head. If I'd bet $5, I'd have 20 now. I created an account. Put in my email. My birthday. Got to the deposit screen. Upstairs, I heard Kevin's voice. Then Emily laughing at something. I closed the app, deleted it, put my phone face down on the floor, and stared at the ceiling until I fell asleep. Dennis called me into his office at 2 p.m. I'd been on site all morning in Owasso trying to make up for the missed concrete pour. My shirt was dirty. I smelled like sweat and dust. Dennis sat behind his desk. He didn't smile. Close the door, he said. I closed it. Sat down. He had a file in front of him. My personnel file. I could see my name on the tab. 3 absences in 2 months, he said. Late reports on the Riverside project. Missed calls from clients. What's going on? I thought about lying. Saying my mom was getting worse. Saying I had the flu. Saying anything that would buy me time. But I was tired of lying. I've been going through some stuff, I said. Personal stuff. But I'm handling it. It won't happen again. Dennis leaned back in his chair. He was 50-something. Bald. Wire rim glasses. He'd been managing construction crews for 20 years. He'd seen every excuse. Matthew, you used to be my best PM. Clients asked for you by name. Your timelines were tight. Your reports were clean. Now I don't know if you're going to show up. His words hit harder than I expected. I used to be good at this job. I used to care. I'm putting you on 60-day probation, he said. 1 more unexcused absence and you're done. No exceptions. I nodded. Do you need time off? He asked. Family leave or something? No, I said. I need to work. He studied me for a moment. Is everything okay at home? I almost told him. I almost said no. I lost $6,000 at a casino. I got evicted. I'm living in my sister's basement and I can't stop thinking about betting the $14 in my bank account. But I didn't. My mom's been sick, I said. It's been hard. He nodded, softened a little. Take care of yourself, he said. We need you sharp. I stood up, shook his hand. Thank you. I walked out of his office and sat in my truck in the parking lot. I used to be someone people asked for by name. Now I was someone they made excuses for. I drove back to Emily's house. Spent the afternoon in the basement applying for payday loans on my phone. All denied. Bad credit. Too much debt. High risk. That evening, Emily knocked on the door. You want to come up for dinner? She asked. I said no. She didn't push at 7 p.m. I picked up the piece of paper she'd left on the stairs. Faith Lutheran Church. Tuesdays and Thursdays. 7 p.m. It was Monday. I put the paper back in my pocket and told myself I'd think about it tomorrow. I didn't plan to go. Tuesday evening, I sat in the basement while Emily and Kevin ate dinner upstairs. I could hear their forks on plates. Quiet conversation. Normal life. I picked up the paper. Read the address again. Faith Lutheran Church, Sheridan Road. 7 p.m. It was 6:45. I stood up. Put on my jacket. Walked upstairs. Emily looked up from the table. Going out? She asked. Yeah, just for a bit. She smiled. Didn't ask where I drove to the church. It sat off Sheridan in a neighborhood of old houses and chain-link fences. Brick building. Small parking lot. A sign out front said, "All welcome." I parked and sat in the truck. I could still leave. I could drive to a bar, to a gas station, anywhere but here. But my hand opened the door. I walked inside. The meeting was in a basement fellowship hall. Folding chairs arranged in a circle. 12 people sitting with coffee in styrofoam cups. Fluorescent lights overhead. A banner on the wall. One day at a time. An older man stood near the coffee pot. Gray hair. Soft eyes. He walked over when he saw me. First time. He asked. I nodded. "I'm Dale. Welcome." He handed me a cup of coffee. Led me to an empty chair. The meeting started at 7. Dale told his story first. He was 70. Retired machinist. Lost his house in 2003 to video poker. Maxed out credit cards. Borrowed from his kids. Hit bottom in a casino bathroom with a pocket full of pawn tickets. 19 years since my last bet, he said. "I'm not cured. I'm just sober today." Then others shared. A woman named Sharon talked about stealing from her kids' college fund. $3,000 over 6 months. Her husband found the statements. Almost left her. A man in a Carhartt jacket talked about losing his truck. His tools. Everything he needed for work. Dale looked at me. "You want to share?" I shook my head. "That's okay," he said. "Just listen." I sat there holding my coffee. Not drinking it. Just holding it. The end. Dale handed me something. A white poker chip. It said 24 hours on one side. "Just try for 24 hours, he said. "That's all. Don't think about forever. Just tomorrow." I took the chip. It was plastic. Light. Felt like nothing. I drove home holding it in my fist. For the first time in weeks. I didn't think about the casino. I just thought about tomorrow. I made it 13 days without gambling. Went to 4 more meetings. Started responding to Emily's check-ins honestly. Picked up weekend overtime at work. Dennis noticed. Told me I was doing better. On a Friday afternoon, I sat in my truck after a site visit in Bixby. My paycheck had hit that morning. I checked my bank account. $1,847. Not enough for Karen. Not enough for anything that mattered. But close to 2,000. I thought about the Dragon Link machine. The way the gold coins filled the screen. The sound it made when the bonus hit. I could take 200. Just 200. Play conservative. Double it. Walk out. I started the truck. Drove south on the highway. Pulled into Riverwind's parking lot at 4:30 p.m. I told myself. I'd be smart this time. Controlled. I'd set a limit and stick to it. I walked inside. Straight to the high-limit room. Sat at the same Dragon Link machine. Fed in $200. 40 minutes later, it was gone. I sat there staring at the screen. Balance. $0.00. My hands were shaking. I walked out to the parking lot. Got in my truck. Locked the doors. I pulled out my phone. Found Dale's number. He'd written it on the back of a meeting scheduled 2 weeks ago. I called. He answered on the second ring. "Dale." "Yeah." "Who's this?" "Matthew. From the meetings." "Hey, Matthew. You okay?" My voice cracked. I slipped. "I went to the casino. I lost $200. Silence on the line. Then, "Okay. You slipped. Do you want to come back?" I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. "Yeah." "Then come back," he said. "That's all you gotta do. There's a meeting tonight at 7. Can you make it?" "Yeah. I'll see you there." He hung up. I sat in the truck shaking. $200. 40 minutes. But I'd called Dale. That was something. I drove to the church that night. Walked into the meeting late. Everyone looked up. Dale nodded at me. Pointed to an empty chair. I sat down. "I'm Matthew," I said. "And I slipped today." "Thanks for coming back," Dale said. And everyone nodded. I went to meetings twice a week through November. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes Saturdays when they had a noon session. I made it 30 days. Then 60. On day 63, I told my full story aloud for the first time. The $6,000. The lost keys. Jackson's face across the poker table. The eviction notice. All of it. People nodded. Sharon hugged me after. A guy named Rick said, "Thanks for sharing." It didn't fix anything, but it felt like breathing. One Thursday night in late November, Dale said something that stuck. "You don't get struck sober," he said. "You just get tired of the weight." I thought about that all week. The weight of lying to Emily. The weight of avoiding Dennis's questions. The weight of checking my bank account 10 times a day. The weight of driving past Riverwind and gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. That I'd been carrying that weight for a year. Maybe longer. And it had made me invisible to myself. I started keeping a notebook. writing down things I'd regained point 0.8 hours of sleep. Without waking up in panic, a conversation with Emily where I didn't. Lied out a full shift at work without checking my phone for scores that I also wrote. Down what I'd lost. Karen won't take my calls that I still owe. $3, 200. My credit score is 510. The balance sheet wasn't even. Not close. But it was real that in early December Emily asked me to come upstairs. Said she had something to show me. I climbed the stairs. She was sitting at the kitchen table with an envelope. This came today, she said. She slid it across. It was from Mom's nursing home. Final billing statement. I opened it. Balance due for $1,100. Payment due by January 15. My stomach dropped. I've saved $2,000, Emily said. I was hoping you could cover the rest. I looked at the number. For $1,100. The old pull came back. Sharp. Immediate. I could take $1,000 to the casino. Turn it into 3. Then 4. Pay the bill. Solve the problem. Then I looked at Emily's face. Hopeful. Trusting. Waiting. The pull collapsed. I can't cover it right now, I said. But I'll figure something out. And I won't gamble to do it. Her shoulders relaxed. Okay, she said. We'll figure it out together. We worked out a plan. I'd pick up extra shifts through Christmas. She'd ask Kevin's brother for a short-term loan. It was messy. It wasn't neat. But it was honest. That night, I wrote in my notebook. Told Emily the truth. Felt like shit. But I didn't lie. Christmas came and went. I worked double shifts. Saved $800. Emily's brother-in-law lent us $1,500 at low interest. We paid the nursing home bill on January 10th. I kept going to meetings. Kept staying sober, but on a Tuesday in late January, Karen called. I almost didn't answer. Matthew. Yeah. Hi. I wanted to check in, she said. See how you're doing. I'm okay. Living with my sister. Working. Staying clean. Silence. I'm glad, she said. Listen, I know you still owe me $3,200. I'm not writing it off. But if you want to set up a payment plan, $200 a month, I'll work with you. My throat tightened. Really? Really? You screwed up. But you're trying. That counts for something. I set up automatic payments that week. $200 on the first of every month. It would take me 16 months to pay her back. But I'd pay her back. In February, Dennis took me off probation. Gave me a small raise. Said I was back to my old self. I wasn't. Not really. But I was someone I could recognize. I kept living in Emily's basement. Kept going to meetings. Kept talking to Dale. One night he said, recovery isn't a destination. It's just what you do today. I wrote that in my notebook. 2 days before my 9-month mark, I drove to a site in Norman. Took the highway back. Wasn't thinking about the route. The Riverwind exit appeared on my right. For 9 months I'd taken the long way to avoid it. Today I stayed in my lane. Drove past it. Didn't feel anything. No pull. No voice. No fight. Just the road. I kept driving. It's late June now. I've been without a bet for 9 months and 4 days. I'm still living in Emily's basement. Still rebuilding my credit. Still paying Karen $200 a month. I'm off probation at work. Dennis gave me the Riverside expansion project. It's the biggest timeline I've managed in 2 years. I still go to meetings. Still talk to Dale. Last week I drove back from a site in Norman. Took I-44 north without thinking. The Riverwind exit came up on my right. I didn't grip the steering wheel. Didn't hold my breath. Didn't feel my chest tighten. I just kept driving. It was the first time in 9 months I'd passed that exit and felt nothing. No pull. No whisper. No fight. Just the road ahead and my hands on the wheel. What stays with me isn't the money. It's not even the humiliation. It's Jackson's face across that poker table. The way he looked at me when I pushed that last $1,000 forward. The way he asked, you sure about this? Not as a dealer. As a person that he'd seen 100 guys like me. Maybe 1,000. Guys who walked in believing they were different. Believing they were due. Believing they could control it. That he knew how my night would end. But he had to deal the cards anyway. I think about him sometimes. Wonder if he remembers me. Probably not. I was just another face. Another loss. Another guy who couldn't walk away. But I remember him because he was the last person who tried to stop me. Before I hit the bottom, and I didn't listen. I had to save myself. Nobody else could do it. I pull into Emily's driveway and sit for a moment. In the quiet. My phone buzzes. A text from Dale. See you Thursday? I text back. I'll be there. I get out of the truck. Walk to the side door. Emily's in the kitchen making dinner. How was your day? She asks. I think about the Riverwind exit. The way I drove past it. and felt nothing. Good, I say. It was good. And I mean it.